at the end of the day, you end up wondering about the underlying value which is driving a particular script. And if it's about buying from a whole bunch of ETFs, that's not exactly reflecting the true picture of what's going on. So before we come to the last round of questions, your response to that, Abhishek?
Well, I think as Kanika and both Kaustubh had mentioned, it's a structural reform which needs to be taken. I think, and SEBI's been thinking about it, talking about it. There are industry bodies working on this. Uh, the way we define indexes, the way we design these rules today, there are certain caps that we create for individual stocks as well as sectors and more diversified indexes. Of course, with thematics and sectoral indexes, there is not much that you can do, but these caps is something which is a risk mitigation at some point in time. And I think with emergence of different strategies coming out with different ways of designing the same index, the smart beta strategies, I think that is something which will change the way investors have been investing so far in ETFs and in index funds. I do hope that his experience is good, because success brings in more success for industry. Smart beta over a period of time will be able to maybe even mitigate some of the perils of this traditional indexing, and bring about maybe some new ideas as well.
All right. On that note, let's get in, everyone's summary thoughts on, the way forward and what they would wish, say, regulators do to enhance the passive investment landscape in India. So, Costa, we'll start with you, and then we'll go around the table from Kanika and Abhishek and Jaydeep's perspectives.
Sure, Kaustubh. So I think, like we said, it's really the start of an exciting journey for passives in India. I mean, currently, when you look at data that AMFI puts out, there's just about 2% of individual investor holdings in ETFs and fund of funds, and I think another 2% in index funds, right? So it's really skimming the surface in terms of allocations from individual investors towards passives. And I think this is only going to grow and grow significantly. And I think there have been some interesting steps, obviously, the regulators and the industry sort of has been taking in terms of, one is investor education like this, which really helps increase awareness and understanding of passives. And secondly, I think the thing that Kanika alluded to is in terms of setting a liquidity framework for ETFs. Because if you want to have a vibrant ETF market, instead of investors trying to get in more index funds rather than ETFs, you need to have mechanisms where liquidity is free and easily available without much impact cost for investors. And I think that is a framework which obviously the regulators are looking into closely, and would be the next step to really grow that ETF market or the passives market quite significantly.
All right, Kanika, your summary statement on the way forward and what prescriptions you would suggest to the government or regulators to enhance the passive investing landscape.
I think it's very naturally and organically going to happen. You look at all the new mutual fund licenses that are being given out this year. All of them are to guys who want to launch passive shops, right? And there's enough venture dollar in there. We're going to see lots of change in consumer behavior, which then drives policy change. So I'm very excited over the next 3 years as more and more money is being poured into evangelizing passives, because every single mutual fund is going to have to distribute that. Right? So interesting times. We don't really need to do much. The market drives the change it needs. So that would be my. I'm just going to wait and watch and invest.
You could put that on a T-shirt. The market drives the change that it needs. Wise words indeed. Right? Abhishek, your parting thoughts.
So I think I agree with Kanika that the consumer is becoming more and more discerning. They realize the money that they're spending to get what they are getting in their portfolios, and clearly they are moving towards passives very, very, very quickly. If you look at the AMFI data. From a regulator standpoint, I think they've been absolutely supportive of this passives move. They've been pushing for transparency in the industry, and they've been pushing for low cost as well over the last many years. And I think the consumer will fast track that change itself. The only two asks that from a business standpoint that I would typically have is build the liquidity framework, strengthen that liquidity framework for the industry so that tomorrow the risk, the inverse risk of passives itself driving that inefficiency in the portfolios is mitigated at some point in time. And second is to allow more distribution. Unless you have larger distribution network available, despite being such a great product, it will still not reach the masses. Even today, as we speak, we have more Bitcoin investors in India than mutual fund investors in India. So I think some work needed there.
All right, Jaideep, let's get in the last word from you on this, on the way forward and your prescriptions.
So I think first I'll just make a corrective statement, which is my own personal view. I think we have more Bitcoin speculators in India than we have stock investors in India. 99.9% of the people I speak to who have so-called invested in Bitcoin don't even begin to understand what it is, which is a bit worrying actually. Adding to what my co-panelists have said, I think I would call, of course, I think the regulatory aspect is very important and keep costs low. The second really important piece is, I think the industry should evangelize the funds like they've evangelized stock investing overall. I think the more you do that, more you make people aware that there is this stream of investment products available that they can look at, and those who are willing to settle for market returns rather than continuing to search for market beating returns. And there's many of us who are in that boat, who are very happy with market returns. As long as they come at a low cost and relatively lower risk, then there will be an uptake and I think a net inflow overall into the industry as a result of these funds becoming more and more popular.
An investor education and awareness initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.